Hello, everyone. Today we have Dr. Manoj Sharma with us. He has a vivid professional background as a professional in his initial days and now a research fellow. He has been performing his research in the field of physics throughout the world in places like India, Turkey, Singapore, and now in Australia. He has over 40 research papers with his name on it. We are glad to have him on this podcast today. Sir, as a part of SAIC Thapar, I'd like to welcome you on this podcast.
Okay, thank you very much, Rohan. It's a pleasure for me to be with you and through this Alumni Association of Thapar. I think I can remember some days which I spent in Thapar through our discussion. So, any views or suggestions or some experiences from my life, it can help someone, it will be great.
Yes, sir,
Thank you very much.
I hope our conversation surely adds value to life of many students who'll be watching this podcast.
Yeah, great show. I am also looking forward for it.
So is there something you would like to add about yourself? I've missed something.
I think overall you already briefed about my research background in India, and I also enjoyed a very good time and at the all the research career which I am like enjoying and working hard, all sorts of things. The base was built in Thapar, so I think during our conversations maybe I can shed some light on these things which we maybe you missed it or not. We can explore together.
Great. So, like, I'm a first
Mhm.
year student and I'm really curious to know about your entire journey. Like, I have just
Mhm.
started my journey, and talking to a professional about his journey will be an amazing experience. So, let us start from the beginning, your college life. Like, if you were allowed to go back to your college, what are the experiences you would like to relive?
It's a tough one actually because going back to the time and because now what to say college life because it was a long period. Like my undergrad, my postgrad, and then in Thapar we did the PhD. So I think if you ask me to relive is a whole lot of combinations because it's the whole package. I think you cannot say in one part it you enjoy the company of your friends. You have very nice when you are grown up like in PhD you have nice discussions with the seniors are scientists, professors, your supervisor. So these sort of things is a combination, and we spend some time like in Thapar. You guys have lots of social events, like the Saturn area is there. Maybe I think you will see these sort of things. We It's a package of all things, so we miss all. And if we want to go back in time and think, we just focus on everything. We cannot say one thing.
So like I have almost completed my first year and not even been to college properly. Like I was there for a month. I gave my exams and came back.
I
Been
think for yeah, the hostel life is very important because once if you say in that sense, I think the hostel life gives a whole lot of a new dimension to your philosophy of life, basically how you see life. Because in that place you will be similar age people living together, and you have their similar sort of inspirations, and and you have different backgrounds because from different schools, different families you're coming up, and with different intentions you are approaching a similar goal. So that sort of things actually help each other to like grow together. And apart from that, that's one thing in terms of your professional growth. But apart from that, as a human being also it's a great experience. I think you guys will enjoy once this COVID is over. Once you will be back in the hostel in Thapar, you guys are going to enjoy that and learn a lot of things from that, apart from your of course your normal classes.
absolutely, so like waiting like anything. So like talking about hostel, do you have some fun stories or incident you would like to share with us, like some hostel experiences?
Yeah, so it will be like a different because in I was like a local lad in Thapar for my PhD, but I did my masters in Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, masters of like physics, masters in sciences in applied physics. So I spent like 2.5 years there. Like 2 years I was a student, then I was like teaching for some time there also in the university. So overall it was a very nice experience as I brief you. So like you can say that the major change I can have is that how I was studying. Basically, I was having a kind of a impression that generally I need to sleep a lot before the exam. For example, you are having an exam in the morning, and I was in my school days, I always try to sleep like 7 to 8 hours at least before the exam. And generally, that was my intentions. If I'm not going to do that, it was not a good exam. Psychology, I was not good, that I am not going to give a good exam. But once living in a hostel, I was seeing people are reading in the nights, and also so they were very flexible. So by seeing each and other, I also improved a lot for my education, the style of how I should read, how should I like focus on each chapters, how much detail I need to go to this particular topic. So these sort of things, and we have lots of discussions, fun things. We were just eating, going in the night, eating outside sometimes. So these sort of things you remember actually as a hostel, in the hostel life.
Like my short experience of hostel, that was just for 1 month. I'm able to relate to you so much. Like we had our end semester exams, and like we were there in the hostel during that time, and we used to sleep just for an hour or so before giving our exams. So that was a
Yeah,
completely new experience, but amazing at the same time.
yeah.
So
You that's a, as I mentioned, it's a full package, and it's a life actually in itself, the hostel. So I think you guys will, you are going to enjoy a lot in your like 4 years undergrad degree in Thapar.
absolutely, sir. What are your favorite hangout spots in and outside Thapar?
Ah, I think that would be difficult for, because I was doing a PhD at that times. So once you are doing a PhD or undergrad, the things change a lot. So you cannot have same sort of things, because for an undergrad the life is different. When I was undergrad, so my hangout spots will be different. Once you are doing a PhD, you are already into some sort of a job, so then you are always thinking of going to the lab, do your experiments. So hangout spot will always be a lab actually, not outside. Once I'm going to Thapar, I was in a lab, or I did my PhD with the Professor O.P. Pandey. So he's a very senior material scientist in Thapar. So I think he's still leading the department. So I spent like very good times during my PhD at School of Physics and Material Science there. So we had a lot of good discussions. So that was the hangout spots was that actually. And if we want to discuss something else, it still will be the office or the lab, or something on these sorts. I think if you say apart from the work, sometimes I go, there are some canteens we just go for having a tea, or there is a juggy. I think still it is there or not.
Yes, sir, it is there.
Yeah. So we just try to we eat at that like point.
Juggy is
Yeah.
everyone's favorite in Thapar.
Yeah, that's great. And there's a juice bar also. There's a some
Yes,
sort of
sir,
shop. I think still there is good.
it is still there.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
So, like, say, talking about your college experiences, like, it's 90% of your friends and 10% of every other thing, right? So, like, I would
Mhm.
like to ask, are you still in contact with your friends you made in college?
It's Rohan is it's getting decreased, but thanks to the social media, so we still like chat with people. I like if you say like in Thapar particularly, I did my PhD. So my colleagues generally, Dr. Akshay, Dr. Vishal, and then later on, uh, there were some other friends. They joined the PhD. I'm still in touch with Dr. Manish, Dr. Deepak. So I'm still in touch. We were also teaching together in another university after doing our PhD. So we are in touch. But after coming from India, it's little less actually. Now we can only meet them when we go back to India in vacations, or through social media. Definitely through WhatsApp we can talk. But it is less. Previously we were having a good overlap. And as due to our research career, actually, since we somehow we talk, sometimes we can meet some people in the conferences. Right now, due to COVID, it is getting less and less, but we interact uh, with the peers there also.
So like great. Like there's a question in my mind. Like I've been talking to professional these days, and this is a thing I get to hear a lot. Like, is it true to say that college friends are the best company you get, or you make better friends during your professional life?
Mm, I think professional life we don't make friends. It's like colleagues, we should say. I think friends are in the college life only or school life. So you cannot make friends in your professional life. Of course, you can, but it is more of a like a colleague relation. If you want to have like do your duties in the right way, because in profession you keep on changing after few years. It's not like old times, and you are going to witness even through my career also. I took a good decisions at different times, difficult decisions. I moved from after a few places after 4 years, 5 years, from one place to other place to improve my research, professional research skills, as well as my and based upon my interest also. So we keep on changing places. So colleagues you will have everywhere, but my college friends or school friends, even still we are in touch with each other. So I think that's the friends definitely in college life, not in profession, I think.
Completely makes sense. Completely makes sense. So like since we have grabbed enough of your college experiences, let's move a little bit towards the research. Like I'm very curious to know how is the entire research process is like how does the ideation process is like, and how do you pursue an idea all over? How does the research look like?
Okay, so it's like a big thing, because you will generally see there is a different aspects to this question. So basically, I can brief you something about how to build up an idea generally, and uh, also I can share my experience how I like was introduced to research. Basically, it's like a research. You need to have an interest for doing getting into research, but to idealize a problem is you need to first, if you want to do a particular degree like a PhD or a master's project, you need to do it with a supervisor. So if it's an experimental research, it's a different initiation to a problem. If it's a theoretical thing, it's a different. But more or less, you need to first review the literature in that particular field. So if you have decided something, or your supervisor can give you some problem. For example, as we work on nanomaterials, so we need to first see what literature is available in that particular direction. So then based upon that literature, we try to find out the problem on which we are going to spend like a couple of years or 4 years of for your PhD. And then whole literature review is available. Then with your supervisor, you should have discussions on that particular review, what you do and what sort of gaps are there that on which you want to work, you want to do some experiments. Then you plan your experiments, get it checked by your supervisor, and then you learn how to like find a risk assessment. For example, if you want to do some experiments in the lab, you need to see what risk sort of risks are there. You need to mitigate that. Generally these sort of things we were doing at Thapar at that time. Also, like in my experience, as I also worked in different parts of the world now, so this is sort of a very very stringent. If you go to very very high ranked university, so this process is, they take it very very serious, that what sort of risks are involved. Then you try to find out that okay, you will do this experiment, these are the risks, so you try to address it. You should wear a proper PE, you have a mask, you have the goggles, and you have your proper footwear ready, and you know what sort of chemicals you are working with. These sort of things, once they are taken care of, then you start your experiments and you have your initial set of results. So with that results, you try to see it, what you get it. So what you're getting it, for example, you want to make some material. Once you made some material, you need to investigate that what you are targeting, your manufactured or synthesized material is near to that or not. And then you try to analyze with different sort of techniques, experimental techniques, like in physics or chemistry labs we do some lots of with x-rays, with electron rays, gamma radiations. We do lots of experiments to understand the properties of that material. And then you discuss with your like colleagues as well as your supervisor that these are sort of results, and based upon that you redo the experiments. and this is a whole kind of a cycle. So it's a kind of a feedback. Your experimental analysis are giving you feedback of your material, so then you're improving your material recipe. And then finally, if you get something good thing and you understand something, then you write it actually, in terms of you want to disseminate that work in terms of a publication. So you write a paper, you iterate it with your supervisor or your co-authors, colleagues. If you're collaborating with different universities, you just share your results and then discuss about it. So it's a whole lot of the story. It's a big picture, so I'm just trying to concise it, that it's a very like, you need to have a lot of patience in research, how you like think of a particular problem and then how you achieve it. And most probably, if you achieve it, is good. If you don't achieve it, still you learn a lot of things through this journey. That's why PhD degree is really a good degree, because after doing a PhD, you not only know your field, you not only know your subject, but you also get lots of skills that are like very helpful in your life in future. You can go to management. Lots of scientists go to administration later on. You will see that people. I also like served as an administrator in India. In my during my assistant professorship, I was also like a department in charge there. In Singapore, I was senior scientist. I was also like a program manager there. So it's all a lot of combinations, and these skills we develop during this research plan. What you asked is that how to like plan a thing, then execute a thing. So that skills we use it for research, but they are very useful in other aspects of your life. So that's how we disseminate the work finally. And then when it goes to the peer review, you have different scientists for reviewing that research. They give lots of comments that okay, this is good, this is not good. They reject it or they accept it. So once they reject it, for example, you need to do again redo the experiments, or somehow if they give you a revision, so we need to they give some comments, that based upon that comments we further improve our results, and then we again submit. Then finally that work is accepted, and then how that's one part of research is closed, and then you continue that research or on in another direction. So that whole lot of things are involved in doing a research.
So the entire journey sounds so exciting. Like when you were like telling about it, I could really relate. I could really feel that you were quite excited about research, the way you were explaining everything. So like sir, in the beginning of your beginning, you said that like for getting into research, you really need to be interested in that. So talking
Yeah.
about you, you were interested in research from the very beginning, or this is something you like realized during your journey?
Okay, Rohan, actually, this is, I think I'm lucky with that somehow I got the parents and the company of friends and teachers, so they helped me. I was very interested in this particular profession from my childhood. Like I was having the science is a passion for me from my childhood days. So I can say my passion or hobby is my career. So it's as simple as this. So I'm just doing what I'm interested in. That's why I don't have this kind of a clock in my mind. Of course, I in a professional life I have to bear it in order to make a good work life balance. But since it is my passion, so from childhood, so it's really great from school days. Then I cannot even imagine something else I could have done. Maybe I should be, if I'm not doing science, I cannot immediately imagine what I would be. So from school days, I go into sciences. I think as you guys did this physics, chemistry, mathematics, or something, these sort of subjects. And then I did my bachelor's in sciences in Patiala in Government Mahindra College. So after that, I go for my master's in physics, because I know that I have to be in physics. Then after that, I continue with PhD in this physics and specialization with this material science and nanomaterials. So, and later on, I during my teaching years in India, and also like after my like postdoctoral experiences in different parts of the world, so I am into the same direction which I was when I was a kid. I was imagining that I should be doing some science. Of course that things changes. Once you are a kid, you always think of doing some research as a space scientist, and then you think of okay, so what in the space scientists, they don't do only they don't go to moon only. They just develop some materials also. They are useful for spacecraft. They try to make some uh, some people work on their softwares, they are also helping them. So some people work on their like engine or technology or these sort of things. It's a whole sort of a teamwork. So but some or less more or less I am in the same profession which I was thinking as a child.
Great. So that is so amazing to hear. And like I would like to ask, when you were in Thapar, you started working on research topics under various professors. Like how did that entire thing go for you?
Okay, Rohan. So, like in PhD degree, as I mentioned, so I entered actually through a master's project, 6 month project. I think if I remember, Dr. Sunil was a senior scientist at that time. So, with him and Dr. O.P. Pandey, so I started a 6 month project on basically developing some semiconductor materials. So then through that actually I developed more interest in that direction. And then I was like very happy to be supervised by Professor Pandey, who is a really a very great scientist. So he helped me. So then I requested him to do a PhD with him. So he was happy to accept me and supervise me for my research. So then I started basically after my master's thesis with him. So I continued my PhD actually. So for my PhD, then I further developed this kind of a non-toxic nanomaterials. I can little bit. I don't want to touch too much of the specialization here, but I will try to make it simple for every audience so that they can have a feel of it also. So in my PhD, I worked on this zinc sulfide based semiconductor nanomaterials. So generally, these materials are used for optical phenomena like your screens, TV screens in old days. They are made up of phosphors. So basically, you give some electrical current, so then they emit some light. So that light, based upon that light, you make some screens. Nowadays, I am continuing that kind of a things with LCD screens, display devices, the watches, your mobile screens, and also this LEDs nowadays. This color conversion LEDs are always everywhere. So basically, all these things require fluorescent materials. So generally, so zinc sulfide was one of the potential materials. So I developed that material with Professor Pandey during my PhD. So we did a lot of experiments. It involved a lot of chemistry based experiments, and my background was physics actually. So but Professor Pandey has a very vast experience in terms of metallurgy, material science, and physics. So he helped me through this to learn things in terms of chemistry. So then slowly I started learning about chemistry again. Although in my bachelor's I studied chemistry, but somehow I related my physics with this subject in nanomaterials, because nanotechnology is a combination. It's an interface of this material science, physics, and chemistry. So all sciences converge to one, and then this nanotechnology is there. So because we develop materials by chemical based methods, then we use physics based methods like experimental techniques like X-ray diffraction, transmission electron microscopy, fluorescence spectroscopies, like to see that what sort of semiconductor band gap they have, what sort of colors they will emit, and how to improve their efficiencies, like how much voltage we give and how much color they emit in terms of their intensity and the color purity. So these sort of things we try to improve in my PhD days. So I think it was a very good experience. So I learned apart from PhD a lot of good things also from Professor Pandey, like time management. He was very strict for the time. I still can remember. So I learned from him. I was more of a thinking like a student. I was always spending more time in thinking and thinking. But once you are into a professional research, you need to like follow deadlines also. So I learned to follow deadlines with him actually. He was strict initially, but that helped me a lot actually to in my later career. So that was in my PhD. Later, I also continued, but maybe we can discuss later. But in my PhD, more or less, I worked on this kind of materials, and we study them. They are like optical properties and their structural studies, how that nanomaterials behave. And we published that work in very good journals at that time. I think I published 4 or 5 publications in my PhD in a very good journals. I also presented my work in my PhD in very good conferences in there is a MRSI, Material Research Society of India. I presented in their symposium, also good conferences in different parts of India. Later, I think I went to US also for presenting my one of my work in University of Michigan. There was a very famous conference on luminescence, international conference on luminescence. Actually, say like 60, 70-year-old conference. Every 4 year they spend a conference. They invite scientists from different parts of the world. So overall it was a very like a solid base. Whatever research career I'm enjoying, actually the base was built in Thapar actually. And Professor Pandey, I can remember, who is supervisor, he has a great role in that. And apart from that, my colleagues, my other fellow students, definitely we discuss with them, they also helped me. There were other professors in my department research committee meeting, the like Professor Kulveer Singh, he was there, Professor K.K. Rana, and all professors were there. So they generally help actually all the students to further sharpen their research goals, and to achieve their like whatever they aim for in their PhDs.
So, sir, in any process, like a mentor is very important. So, like, sir, how did you choose your research advisor or mentor? Like, how did you go for it?
Actually, I was through in my masters in I did my masters in Guru Nanak Dev University Amritsar campus. So I was living in a hostel actually at that time, since I my house was in Patiala. So I moved for my masters in Amritsar. So that hostel experience was very good. And during my masters, I all used to go to different labs. So Professor Thangarajan is like a very famous professor in that university at that time. Professor Sekho was also there. So we generally go to their lab and see how senior students are working for their PhD, what sort of problems they are doing, and attending some conferences. I always know that in Patiala, in Thapar, their material science department was very good actually at that time. Even it's good now; it's improving always. So I was that was always in the back of my mind that in my home city in Thapar, definitely in material science, a lot of good work is happening. So once after completing my masters, and I want to do a 6 month project there. So I used to interact with various professors actually. So that's the good thing. I was like confident to talk to professors to like self like present my CV or something. Maybe it was not that great, but I was always trying to uh, like go to professors, ask about the times that I want to do PhD and what sort of research you are doing. I was always asking. I met different professors, and then somehow I like in the process I met Professor Pandey also. So as I mentioned, he did his PhD in Banaras Hindu University. It's a very big group actually, and he was really experienced at that times also. So like, and after as I do my thesis with him, master thesis, during six months we developed a good like interaction that I was very happy that this is some kind of intuition actually. Once you start doing some research, it's difficult to answer something on that note, because it's a whole 4 years or 5 years thesis you need to spend. But once you start working with someone, you develop kind of instinct that okay, this is good supervisor for me, and you need to approach, and then he needs to also accept you. It's a mutual thing actually. So
Exactly.
luckily it happened in a right way for me. So yeah,
Like,
so that
great,
was
sir.
something that I can say on that actually.
So great, sir. Like your entire journey as a student was like really amazing. So, like summing up, I would like to ask, what do you think Thapar has played a role in your life for preparing you for your career?
Yeah, so I think Thapar, as I mentioned, so I can briefly something I can something tell about my later research also. Maybe I don't know you want to ask separately or not, but after my PhD, like I was a assistant professor in a university in Shri Guru Granth Sahib World University in Fatehgarh Sahib. So there is a department of nanotechnology there at that time. So I teach there for like 5 years, and then I went to Turkey as a National Nanotechnology Research Center as a visiting scientist for a couple of years there. Then I like moved to Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, NTU, say, as a senior scientist. I spent like 4 years there, and now in like I just recently relocated to Monash in Melbourne. So all that research career in different parts of the universities, the base was built in Thapar. So Thapar gave me the confidence and the skill to further develop or go into that particular journey for a research student or a research scientist later on. So these sort of things, the base was built in Thapar. So if you want to say that what Thapar has given is a huge lot of things, but if you want to say one thing is the base was there. If you know that the base of a building is strong, you have a very nice building. So all like my research skills, my career, my publications and achievements, I think all the credit definitely goes to Thapar actually. So for giving me a strong base.
So, like talking about your base and foundation, you completed your undergraduate degree from Punjab University, and then you went to GNDU to pursue your masters. Like, how was the experience there?
It was great actually. So BS undergrad degrees, like for example, as you are doing your undergrad, I think right now. So it's a lot of fun actually at that time. So one is student is young, so we have some sort of ideas, but not into actual reality. And backing at that time is 2000 to 2003 something. I did my undergrad in Government Mahindra College with Punjab University Patiala. So I was definitely interested in physics, but my in undergrad degree at that times it was not an honors course. So we need to study physics, chemistry, and mathematics all together. Although I was more interested in physics only, so I was very not that much interested in chemistry, but still I did chemistry. So that I was not aware of, but later on it helped in my PhD actually. So because in PhD nanotechnology, if I was not having a chemistry base, it would have been very difficult. So at that time, if you want to see the transition from Punjabi University Patiala, like BSc to MSc in Guru Nanak University Amritsar, at that time there were like three universities in Punjab actually. So in this sort of region, this Punjabi University Patiala, Punjab University Chandigarh, and Guru Nanak University Amritsar, they were offering only this and master's course. So there was an entrance exam we need to write, and very less seats were available. It was highly competitive to get into masters of physics. So luckily I passed, and we were like three friends along with my two other friends, very good friends. They later on also, Manish and Deepak. So they also did their PhD in Thapar. After that, with three of them, we go to uh, Amritsar for doing our masters in physics. So with three of us from Patiala to go to Amritsar, do their masters there, and then came back. I did my PhD in Thapar with Professor Pandey, and then both of them they also did their PhD with Professor Pandey in Thapar. So it's very good actually. So all I can say is a very happy journey. If I while talking to you, so I'm still remembering my days. So overall, very good experience as I initially mentioned, because it will be overlap of things. But somehow in the initial discussions, I mentioned you the hostel life was very important in Amritsar because I was a local lad in Patiala. So I did my bachelor's here. So how I approach to a problem in a life actually, or as a student for my subjects, my how I was approaching to that is definitely changed when I was living in a hostel. So that gives me a huge boost actually, and to my confidence, like self-esteem, how I should talk to people. I was very confident after my stay in hostel in Amritsar actually. So that was a very good experience actually that I learned, that helped me in Thapar to do my PhD, and later on to be a successful scientist and an administrator. That hostel life gives a huge impact actually in masters. So yeah, so that's how I can see.
So it's a great, sir. Like your entire experience is so amazing. Like there's a lot to learn from your experience. So I wanted to ask, like, how did the opportunity of studying in Thapa came into your life? Like after your entire master's journey, like how did you decide that you have to go to Thapar and everything?
Yeah. So, Rohan, so as I mentioned earlier, that after my master's, I want to do PhD in physics. So I was always aware of that in material science and physics department in Thapar was great, and there was a definitely very good research work was going on. So I was into this, and And along with that, actually, as a physics student, I was also teaching. Actually, I did a lot of like I was doing a coaching also. Before that, PhD, my masters, I did a good amount of coaching to +1, +2 students for physics. There was, I remember, Mr. Sandeep Dher was there, so he helped me to like set up some students. He was teaching mathematics. I teach physics. I learned a lot of physics while teaching at that times. So that's how I was very happy with that, and I want to do my PhD in Patiala at that time. And Thapar was really a good university. So and the research labs and the department was really good. So I approached for my master's project there, and then through that, actually, how I entered into PhD. So I didn't enter directly. I did my master's research there, and then somehow I was happy with the labs and whatever I was planning to do in my PhD. So I entered into PhD with Professor Pandey in Thapar. So it was uh, it was like of interest, and also like I was happy. I want to live in my city also. So both of things played a good role for me entering into Thapar for PhD.
So all of your decisions, like pursuing research in this field, everything was so perfect. And then, like your professional career right now, you have so many research papers with your name on it, and so many awards. So, like, sir, according to you, what is the highlight of your career?
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, it's as I mentioned. So highlight is something up to now I can say maybe the highlight in the, because every life becomes a story after like it's ended. So the career when it will end, so it will be story. So I cannot say the highlight is there. Maybe it will change, but up to now I can say that um, after my PhD, like in my recent years, I can say last 5 years in Turkey, then in Singapore. I think the main highlight is when I worked in Singapore. It's because in Nanyang Technological University in Singapore, it's a very high ranked university in the world, and I get the opportunity to work as a scientist and senior scientist later on there. So there is a center of excellence. It's called Luminous. They work on display devices and lighting technologies. So I worked 4 years with them. We worked on different industrial projects. We worked for different government projects also. Some industries in Europe, so they sponsor us to work on some particular projects. So the main highlight I work is that we developed some luminescent solar concentrators. So basically, these are some kind of a smart windows. You might have heard of solar cells nowadays everywhere. So apart from solar cells, because like in big cities now, solar cells are there, but to completely replace like conventional technologies like which are carbon emitters, like this fuels, fossil fuels. So you need to replace it with solar cells, but in order to do that, you need to generate the electricity on spot actually. So you cannot have enough solar cells in that. For example, you want to like in national capital Delhi is there, so you want to run whole city on solar cells. It is not practical. So you need to develop some solar cells in a different place where you have a lot of space, and then you transfer that electricity to the cities, and then there is a huge sort of losses, transmission losses are there. So to have onshore kind of a development of electricity was a huge challenge. So we addressed that through my research in last 5 6 years. We addressed that with a new kind of a technology called luminescent solar concentrators. So then in that technology, you have high rise buildings. In the high rise buildings, generally we deploy solar cells on the top rooftop, but
Mhm.
here we are putting a new sort of nanomaterial based technologies in the window panels. You have all windows in like 100-story building. So in the windows, you are putting some quantum dots or nanomaterials in the windows, so that they can like transmit some part of the solar light inside, so that we can have the view outside the window. But at the same place, some part of the solar light which generally is not useful for viewing, so that materials absorb and can send to the edges of the window, and we can place the solar cells on the edges of the window. So then the whole building is acting like a energy generator. Basically, we can use all the space. Like for example, there is a 50-story building. Like in Singapore, that was a huge challenge at that time, because Singapore is like very small in terms of space, and they always work on new technologies coming up. So I led that project, and luckily we published that work in a very reputed journal, Advanced Materials, uh, in 2018, which is followed 17, then followed by another paper in Chemistry of Materials in an American journal in 2018, and then now it is still continuing to 2020 and 21 in proceedings. So I think I can say the main significance, if you want to say, I think that what I feel proud of. But definitely the base of this, to do such sort of a like a research, which basically is now a lot of like world famous researchers are following that research, because that was the first thing. We developed some materials. Basically, people are developing that materials which we can put in the window panels. They can absorb solar light and generate that, like your whole window is also a solar cell now. Basically, in a solar cell, you cannot see actually. So it's a like you can only put on the rooftop. But now it's a kind of a solar cell which is on every window. So you can see outside, from outside, you can see inside, but it is still generating electricity. So people were developing materials, but we developed a new sort of material called atomically flat nanoplatelets. So they are atomically thin at the precise level of like 1 atom, 2 atom, 3 atom, that sort of material, which were very efficient. So it's a sort of a new thing we developed, and now it is like followed by different world famous groups. It's getting a good citations. So I think that is the main significance. But I'm still reminding to the audience, maybe your students of Thapar, the base was for that thing I could only do if I had a PhD, and that with a good experience in Thapar actually. So, but because it's a journey, you cannot start actually from the first year to make a groundbreaking research. You need time, experience, a good team, good funding, all lot of things for doing a good research.
Absolutely, sir. Like the research work you were telling about, like the entire solar cell thing was like is so fascinating. Like I could understand a very basic thing what you were saying, but that was sounding so fascinating to me, honestly. So like
Yeah, great. Thank you.
so like talking about, I've been talking to several people these days, and one thing I get
Mhm.
to hear is after your college life, your life changes drastically once you enter your professional life. So like talking about your experience, how has your life changed from studying a PhD at Thapar to working as a research fellow at Monash University?
Yeah, it's a big journey. My journey is like a sine wave. So I go to some profession, and then I, after a few years, I want to change something, because I always want to try new things. So overall, my journey is, if you want to say in a simple words, I was like uh, more or less as a student. Generally, you try to spend your times, your life things is your day and night are not matter a lot actually. You can study in night also, but once you're in a profession, you need to go to office on time. So you from night, so then you need to change your make a life balance skills actually. You need to learn a lot of things. You need to give time to your families. So you work, you have to go to office at 9 o'clock, you need to wake up 6 o'clock. So it means you need to sleep at 10 o'clock. So everything, these sort of things changes, you need to manage it. And if you have a strong habit of not sleeping in the night, it takes a whole lot of effort to do that. So, and at the same time, you need to be productive also. So once you are a student as a PhD, you are trying to understand something, learn something. So it's quite open. Of course, in PhD you still have deadlines, you need to follow some project. It's still planned, but it is still so much of a like scope is there. You need to plan your things, you have time. But in your professional life, now you work on an industrial project. So in industry, they give you 6 months funding or 1 year funding. You need to give a product at the end of that funding. Otherwise, it is not good on your CV. So you take money from industry, they have some problem. You try to address that problem, and you have to give the output in that time. So you need to plan. You think about a problem. You start getting ideas, but you need to learn how to control that also, so that you on a bigger picture you need to solve the problem of industry, rather than, because in research, the when once your mind is like thinking, you need it it needs to be trained to stop also, so at right time. So I think in professional life you learn this, or the life or the professional, like your universities, you have to learn it. The better you learn earlier, it is helpful.
Absolutely, sir. Like, to be very honest, like getting up at 8 for this interview was a task for me. Like, I had to mentally prepare myself 2 days back. Ki, haan, like, I have to wake up at 8 for this interview. Like, I could completely
Okay.
relate to what you are saying.
Yeah. It's the same. If I would be at your place, it would have been same thing for me. But it is okay. So it's a good thing you guys are learning, and it's a huge change actually. Once we are sharing our experience, some of the experience which are life related, they might still be good, but certain lot of things are changing very fast. It's like internet. We are talking and there is a huge COVID situation going on. We are talking and different parts of the world very easily. And at our times, we were still having internet. We were using Skype for meeting. It's just not too much time, 2003 to 2005, or when I was doing my undergrad and masters. It's you lot of the world has changed a lot. So you guys are already will have the experiences in your undergrad what we could have experienced in our PhDs at that time. So world is changing very fast, but the basic life things, as you're mentioning, is time management. These sort of things, definitely they will remain same.
Absolutely, sir. So talking about world, you have been working in different places, India, Turkey, Singapore, and now in Australia. So, like, this is a question I would like to ask you personally. Ki, like, what is the difference between the work culture in India and abroad? Because majority students here at Thapar also who I've interacted with want to work in abroad but have no idea about how work culture is different in India and abroad. So, like, could you throw some light on this?
Yeah. Okay, Rohan. So it's like a talking generally about India. India is a very big country actually. So I can share only my experience. What I like being a student, as we discussed, is in Patiala, then in Amritsar, then in like I was also a teacher in Punjab. I also spent some time as a visiting scientist in ISC Bangalore. So I know some sort of things, and we do some collaboration in different universities in India. So more or less in India also it's a very diverse actually. Once you go from one university to other university, so it's totally different. So basically for research, only thing is the work atmosphere is, if I have to say in very short words, the basic difference I have found is the paperwork is very high, or it's very large in abroad, and they always try to improve it actually. So uh, they always have lot of risk assessments, all sort of trainings. So once you are going into a lab, you cannot enter the lab without doing all sort of risk assessment and all sort of things. And they always try to improve it. Once I was in Singapore, we feel very like bad that we need to do a lot of trainings and certain things before going to lab, but eventually it helps. Once you have an incident, then you feel it, okay, you need to, because life is more important. So that sort of things I like in abroad universities. And that sort of things in India we were doing it, but we were not doing it in that same intensity. Once it's all responsibility of supervisors in India. So supervisors need to take care of their PhD students, to tell them what sort of risks are involved in an experiment. But it was not in that sense. Was in terms of paper, you need to do something course on internet, or and then you get some exam, you pass that exam, then you go to next course, how to handle a chemical, then what sort of how you sit for an interview. So what should be the your risks involved in working in an office also. So what happens once you have a fire alarm, oxygen alarm, or some poisonous gases leak alarm, what should do in that situation. These sort of things in abroad, they prepare the students or researchers ahead of the time before going to the lab. And in India we were told about it, but we learn these things in the lab also. So of course we do these things in India, but it can be more channelized actually. So that is one thing. But if you say in terms of my experience as discussing science in India, it depends upon society also, because in different parts of societies, I worked in Singapore, it's like different, like society in work in Turkey, it's different. In Australia, it's different. I traveled the world actually in different due to some conferences. I spent some time in like US and other countries in Japan. So all societies, they are different. So that also reflects in their universities. So like in India, we discuss a lot actually. So that's good. Sometimes it's advantage for India is like the knowledge to the Indian professors is very, very high. So in Thapar also, we used to discuss a lot of science actually. So that sort of things, I think India definitely has an edge. So that sort of things in foreign universities, maybe they can, that's why they hire a lot of people from India actually, because to get generate an idea is very important. You can implement on that, but the idea is also very important. So that sort of I think difference I can see from working in India and abroad. But also I think the experimental skills. I think some universities in like in Singapore government was spending a huge amount of money into their R&D. So it's not the universities only; it's the government who was funding actually that universities for the scientists to work on some projects. Like in the COVID situation, you can see that in there are like so many countries in the world, and some of the countries spend enough money to the universities and scientists who can develop a vaccine. So luckily, India is doing a great job in terms of developing a vaccine. India has two vaccines. They were developed in India at that time, so which are helpful. Like we are in Australia here, even in Singapore. So some of the very developed countries, they were still relying on other countries so that they can get the vaccine. So that is very, very important thing. So the government should spend enough of their uh, like budget on R&D, so that different scientists, not in terms of medical sciences, but in all subjects like in physics, in chemistry, or fundamental sciences. So these sort of things I think in abroad is very, very high actually. So government spends a lot of money.
Completely makes sense. Completely makes sense. So, like from your entire experience throughout, like your journey till now, what is
Mhm.
one piece of advice you would like to give to PhD students specifically?
Yeah, okay. It's a difficult one. What is one piece of advice, Rohan? So I think now there are lots of advices already available. It's the internet time now. Everyone knows what to do, what is good for them. So everyone knows it. So if I can like randomly think is, I think the advice is that one should focus on uh, getting more conscious and practice consciousness so that they can achieve their goals. So because it's a life thing, it's not like for a PhD students, it's for like everyone, for undergrad or masters, because everyone knows, frankly saying, Rohan, you know what is good for you, and I also know what is good for me, but sometimes still we cannot do that because we are not practicing like consciously that how to do it. So we know what is good for us and we also know how to do it, but still we cannot do. So that sort of things needs to be addressed. So being a successful in your career or not successful, I think that's the only difference. And how much things we know, because we are the best judge and for ourselves, we know this is good for us. And then if and we also know somehow that how to do it, but if we don't know, still we can find from friends, professors, parents, that how to do it. But still the question comes, we still are not able to do it, it means we are lagging something. So I think that is my advice, that we should consciously make efforts to practice the things what we need to do. So if we make some small goals every day, achieve it, that gives us confidence, and then later on we can use that like skills to consciously like plan things. And like to-do list, you need to make a to-do list every day, you need to do. For example, you are talking to me from today, then you might have your list that these things to do, and in the end of the day you can see that how many things I have done it. For example, if you make 100% one day, second day, third day, you are doing it, and then you say it's a great job, you will achieve whatever you think.
Yeah, like completing your to-do list is a complete new level of satisfaction. Like once you
Exactly, yeah.
complete your to-do list, it's so satisfying. Like if I go to bed, when I complete my to-do list completely and then I go to bed, that is a different level thing. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
completely relate to what you are saying. So
yeah,
like sir,
great Ron.
this is a very generic question, but I'd like to ask, how has pandemic affected your life as a professional and your life in general?
Yeah, that's a, I think it's a very, like it's a common thing for everyone. So like particularly for me, I think I can see that I cannot see my life. I'm like 38 years now, and I see the word as post pandemic and now like with pandemic. We will get out of the pandemic, or maybe we are not. We need to live with the COVID for whole lives. Actually, no one knows. It's kind of a normal. It will be a normal flu every year. One needs to take a flu vaccines, COVID vaccine like that. So it affected a lot. International travel stopped, and for example, we are living abroad. We cannot go back to India as frequently as we were wish to go. It affected, although we are still connected thanks to the technology. We are talking very easily, but still on certain levels of the aspect, it affected a lot of people actually lost their lives, their jobs. So this the overall scenario affect a lot actually. Because maybe you like, for example, for me, I am not affected a lot personally. I'm still lucky as I'm safe. But uh, in your friends, in your families, and you always see some people are getting COVID, people are getting died. So it's still on the back of your mind actually. So its overall atmosphere is not good. So it affected mentally a lot, as to everyone. The same happened to me. And in terms of professional life, actually it's also affecting, because once you have a mask, you go out, you have a mask actually. So we spent like 1 year fully with a mask in Singapore last year 2020 and half of 2021. So it affects a lot. Your thinking abilities goes down when you're not breathing properly. But life is important than your work actually. So sometimes we're working from home, then it's like you need to arrange a lot of things actually, because once you are in office, your brain is trained to think in a one direction. Once you change it to work from home arrangement, you need to cope up a lot of things, and again you settle, then you again start going to the office. And these sort of things keep on happening. It's every part of the world. So it affected professionally in terms of the work, as well as a like a human being. It affected mentally as well as physically. So it's not good. But somehow we need to be positive. That's what I always try to see as a scientist. I see the negative sides, because as a scientist we cannot think positive only. So if I don't buy that argument that we should always think positive, we should think everything, every aspect of it, and then we should decide that which is good for us. Of course, being positive is good, but we should always have a total aspect of it. As a scientist, we always see all aspects, even the negative parts. But the positive part is that vaccines are there now. Maximum people will are getting it. We will also get when our turn come here. So hopefully we will be out of it strongly, and we should know how to like deal with future pandemics, because definitely they are going to come, and we need to be prepared for it.
Absolutely. So positivity is the key, and like you said earlier, survival of the best. Which if we or Corona, whoever, like changes better and is able to come back more with the situation, will survive. So absolutely makes sense. So like
Yeah.
sir, like now coming on to some interesting part of our conversation, like let's start with our rapid fire round. So like these will be some interesting question, and I'm really excited about your answers to these questions. So like first
Hmm.
question I'd like to ask is, if a book was written about you, what would you like its title to be?
Okay, so book, it's difficult one, Rohan. So I cannot say that book would be written. I can write a book, but if someone writes a book, I don't know what he thinks to highlight. But it's like my journey of life, scientific struggle actually, or how I took decisions in my life, and by calculated risks one needs to take to grow as a scientist. And being a scientist is not that easy actually. Throughout the world, not even in India, the fundings are less, governments are not funding too much, so you need to live for your passion. So it's good nowadays. Industries are coming up. Is still, but my thing is the uh, struggle of life as a scientific journey. I think that sort of on these sort of things one can write if anyone wants to write. I don't know. Yeah.
Amazing, sir. So, sir, like, what do you like to do other than your work?
Hmm. It depends on different parts actually. Right now, I would relax by listening to music, just vocals. Uh, but at different parts of my life, stages of my life, sometime I when I was a student, I used to play cricket a lot. So I was playing cricket. We just used to dance also. There is in Punjab there is a culture dance called bhangra. So we also do a lot of I also do a lot of bhangra at different stages. So yeah, it's changed actually in life. Now I play with my kid, my son. I play cricket with him sometimes, but generally if I'm alone, I listen to music.
Amazing, sir. Like, interests change with age, and like you completely, as per
Yeah,
your
yeah,
experience, you
exactly.
completely show that spectrum.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, sir, if you were given an opportunity to go back in time, what is that one thing you would like to change about yourself?
Okay, so it's like maybe I don't want to change something. It's all good actually. So even if I not have a good experiences, still they teach me actually. So, but if you if you say I need to say one thing I want to change is actually one is to learn how to say no. I want to change wherever I said yes, but I need to say no. I want to say no straight away at that if I have to change. Maybe I would be more successful earlier, little bit earlier.
So like this is a life skill like majority people lack these days, I believe. Like personally, as a first year student, also like the inability to say no affects my life as well. So like I can imagine like the inability to say no as a profession impacts so much.
Yeah, exactly. Because this helps actually. This helps us, and also this helps the person who to whom we say no to something. You are given something and you cannot do or you don't want to do, but you say yes. um, I don't know, out of fear or out of some sort of you have some kind of a compulsions. Okay, if I say no, it will not say good, but later on it affects both parties, yourself and the person to you you're saying no or yes. So definitely the better or the earlier we learn these sort of skills, they help ones to be successful actually in a team.
Absolutely, sir. So, sir, like I would like to ask, what is that one principle that you abide by till date?
Hmm. Okay, so Rohan, one principle, I think a lot of things from now. I changed a lot. I always there will be still certain bad things. I still rely. Maybe I don't want to say. Uh, I still rely, but yeah, if you want to say, I'm still actually I like work with my dedication. So I always remain loyal. Maybe my peers, my supervisor, may or my friends or my employers can tell. I am always loyal to like my work environment or my studies. So I from my childhood I was loyal at what I should do, and I'm doing it now. And while in the journey, I was always loyal from the start. So that helped me a lot because it helped me to be clear, and that being clear it gets like a lot of tensions from your mind. So they are already out. So because you are very clear and loyal with your profession. So I think that sort of still thing I still I'm continuing.
Great, sir. So this is a question. If not a scientist, what would be your alternate profession?
Hmm. Actually, it would be uh, related to science even. I love teaching physics. I was teaching physics for many years in Patiala. So I have lots of students. Maybe if they watch this like interview, they will relate it. uh, I think I was a good teacher at that times. They can comment, but I also learned a lot from my students. Apart from, because once you explain something, you know that thing better. So the best way to learn is to teach. So this is generally happened to me also. I would be a teacher, but it's in the same profession. But if you want to say out of the profession of teaching and research, I would be a cricketer maybe. At that time, I need to take a call when I was a student. So I need to decide one thing, maybe a scientist or a cricketer. If not a scientist or a teacher, science, not in sciences, I would be in sports.
Great, sir. Great. So, sir, like, what is that one piece of advice you would like to give to the youth today?
Okay, I think Rohan is more or less we discussed in another question. My answer little bit overlapped. I think it's one thing is what the youth is one is to be learn how to be conscious. For example, we are talking to each other. How much conscious we are, that decides the quality of our discussion. So everyone knows the youth is very smart, and there is a huge of technologies that can make them further smart. They know what is good. My only advice will be to be like approach to that their goals with like consciousness, and that will help them to attain them faster. And for somehow people don't attain it. I think the only reason in my experience is that we didn't like approach to that problem more consciously. So back of the mind we are thinking that we need this thing, and we but we don't approach it consciously. So once you make your to-do list, make conscious efforts every day, the 10 p, then you will definitely achieve it. So the more conscious we get it, that one thing at a time we are doing, so then it definitely helps to achieve whatever the one thinks. That is, I
Absolutely.
think, I can make advice if someone wants to hear.
Absolutely, sir. We'll certainly try to, like, follow the advices you have given. So, sir, now the last section of
Okay,
our
thank you.
conversation. This is the this or that section
Mhm.
where I'll be giving you two options and you'll have to choose any one of them. So, first, like, you're a morning person or a night person?
It's like it changed actually. So if I cannot say one thing, now I am a morning person, but I told you it changed from a night person to morning person once I like come into my professional life. But being a morning person is good actually. So I was of a philosophy that generally night is quiet. I can read a lot, but my efficiency was still low. But I was still happy. I was getting good marks and grades. I was happy. But being a morning person, it's a all lot of things as a, because study is one part of it. The life is a huge it has huge dimensions, all dimensions. So being a morning person is really good actually. Now I'm a morning person. I'm healthy and happy.
Great, sir. The second question, vacation in India or in abroad?
Uh, this is, I think, vacation is being a scientist. I think it's for us is very difficult to decide one thing, because we develop that sort of skill that we can easily find good and bad things in every aspect. So abroad is also good for me. It's difficult one for me. So in India, I am also very happy in India. So and I visited lots of places in India, but I still want to explore India more. I also explored overseas, but right now in pandemic, at this time, I want to visit India now. Once things are fine.
Absolutely, sir. Sir, so one thing from back from your college life, what would you have preferred? Attendance or sleeping?
Hmm. Like preferred. I think preferred is at college time. I would have preferred sleeping, because I was awake at 4 o'clock in the morning. So the morning class was always I was missing. But definitely one is to plan which subjects you want to pursue. I don't want to say that you should prefer sleeping, but that was I was doing it. But once I changed it, you gradually changes these things. So these things will never remain same. You start with sleeping, then and somehow uh, you're with your personal motivation, or changing life skills, you come to more classes.
So,
Yeah,
so
so
the
yeah, I was in the classes mostly. I should say, right? Yeah.
so the last question of our conversation: Netflix or socializing?
Uh, Netflix is I watch. It's a new thing for me. I think it's not that new. People are using for many years, I think. But in our profession, we are so busy in our works that even I was introduced to Netflix only in the pandemic time. That okay, this is a new sort of technology where we can have already pre-recorded videos and documentaries. But Netflix is good actually. So in socializing is like on social media. If you're saying is, I don't like too much. But socializing personally with people I like actually. But if you want to say between social media and Netflix, I will still go with Netflix because something new to me now. I will still explore more and more documentaries. I am happy to see. Yeah.
Great, sir. Great. We got to learn a lot from your entire experience, and we thank you so much for taking out time and talking to us and sharing your journey and experiences.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you very much. I think it's a great effort by you guys. So hopefully it will help some of the things we discussed. It may help to some of the new coming upcoming students in Thapar or currently PhD students. I think overall one thing I want to say is research is to be a researcher is one kind of a passion. So one only needs to enter into this profession if they have an interest, because it's a long PhD. In PhD, you are giving your 4 or 5 years of your time, and you're planning your whole career based upon that. So one should only enter into that profession or the studies if one is really interested to do something good in science. And at that, in our times, there were a lot of there were not too much of the opportunities after your PhD. But right now, as time is changing, you can see that now whole lot of industries after doing your PhD, like 50-60% people move to industries. So a PhD gives an edge uh, to the people who have not done PhD, because with PhD you learn a lot of life skills. You know how to like survive with a failure of an experiment. So you need to you learn how to plan things. So you learn a lot of things, but one should only get into these things once they have a huge interest for research. Otherwise it is not good advice. One can do lots of other courses.